We are getting closer and closer to SummerSlam in Cleveland, but that's not the only party to come in town because the night before, Friday, August 2nd, Sami Zayn and friends do Cleveland at the Agora Cleveland. And joining us now, he is the Intercontinental Champion, and he will bring in that show to Cleveland on Friday, August 2nd. It is the one, the only Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn and friends do Cleveland. It's round 2. You guys did it in Toronto. How does something like this come to be?
Well, it's a long story, but
okay.
the shortest version is that comedy is something I've always been interested in doing. I got a manager not long ago who thought I'd be really good at it, and so somehow or another, I ended up getting a spot on a stand-up comedy festival in LA called Netflix is a Joke, which I think might be the biggest comedy festival in the world right now. And the show was basically whatever I wanted to do. So then I got to thinking of like, okay, well, what do I want to do? You know, there's also a ton of pressure to maybe do stand-up for an hour when I've literally never done stand-up in my life. So I was kind of playing with the idea of what is the show? If it could be anything you wanted, what do you want to do? And that's kind of how the concept for it was born. So it's sort of like a variety show with a lot of different kind of forms of comedy. You know, there's like some sketches and surprises and improv and a little bit of stand-up. I do some stand-up at the very top, and you know, it's kind of a mix. And basically what I tried to apply is the principles that I love in wrestling and the sort of emotional ride that a good match or a good wrestling story takes you on. I tried to basically bring that to a comedy show. So rather than it just be like, 60 minutes of me just up on stage alone, to kind of like have it take a bunch of left turns and right turns and just make it fun.
AgoraCleveland.com. That's AGORA Cleveland.com to get your tickets. You know, I feel like it lived forever because of social media, but your comedy on screen as part of the Bloodline story, which was the top story in all of wrestling at the time. What are some of the moments you remember of getting guys to crack? Because that's always what still goes viral to this day. What are some of the moments you remember most from that?
Well, Jay obviously had a bit of a problem keeping it together. And the irony was in the story, he was definitely the one who was supposed to kind of have it out for me the most. So it was kind of ironic that he would be the one that struggled the most. But it almost became like a self-fulfilling prophecy where after it happened once or twice, and it was like, he just couldn't keep it together ever. And it just kind of spiraled out of control. But I think it's also so memorable because it's not something you ever really see in our world. So even in like Saturday Night Live or sketch comedy, a lot of the ones that do really stick out are when they can't really keep it together. Sure. I mean, sometimes I think it's a little overdone, frankly.
Yeah.
But
Jimmy Fallon. Yep, I gotcha.
Right. Like, come on, you're supposed to be a professional here, But like back in the day, especially when it never happened, and then you saw it happen once or twice, it was like, oh my God. And it's just such a memorable thing because it just sticks out so much, and because it's live, you don't really get to fix it. But you even see, I mean, I don't know about you, but I think a lot of people, myself included, really enjoy if you look at one of your favorite television shows ever and like see the blooper reel.
Right.
Well, it's not live, so that stuff gets cut. But if it was live, some of that stuff would have no choice but to, to live forever. But that stuff's always fun, just to watch these performers who are really, really good struggle to kind of keep it together. Like it even gets them because it's designed to get you.
Right.
But if it's getting them, that's like, oh, wow, this is really, really something, And I think that's part of the appeal of it.
How much are you sort of an inspiration to those in the locker room about staying the course? Because you talk about even your WrestleMania journeys where it's one year you're in a mousetrap, the next year you're main eventing Mania. How much are you an inspiration to others in that locker room?
I really don't know. You'd have to ask them. I don't know. I'm pretty proud of myself and my career and all that sort of stuff. But I'm also like, sometimes I just wonder if anybody notices anything.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So I don't know. Like everyone's just kind of in their own world. And, even like getting a reputation in the world of wrestling, it just takes years and years and years of consistency. And even then, you're not even sure people even pick up on it. You really don't know until maybe like, after doing it for years and years and years. And then, oh, okay. Like only now do I feel like when I come out on any given show, a live event or whatever, the reaction is going to be good. But even now, I always still have like my doubts.
Really?
Because I always just feel like I have to earn it on a nightly basis, you know? But now it's like, okay, over the last 2 years, they're pretty consistent. I'm like, okay, maybe now I'm in their good books. But that took like, 20 years and like a solid 8 years in WWE, week in, week out, and like constantly giving good performances over and over and over, to where finally, like, it just clicks eventually, like, hey, wait a minute, this guy's good. And it wasn't just last time, it was the time before that. And it was the time before that. Like, you know what? It's always going to be good. And that's like, it just takes years. So like Randy Orton's my favorite example, but Randy Orton gets the loudest reaction on the show every single night at these live events. When we go town to town, Randy Orton's music. And it's because he's part of he's incredible, first of all, but he's part of the furniture. Like, he's part of their, if they've been watching for 15 years, he's been there for all 15 of these years.
Right.
Being incredible and taking them on emotional rides year in, year out, week in, week out. It's just a level of consistency and time that ingratiates yourself. It just ingrains you into their heart in a way that, like, being in the middle of a good storyline right now, it's just not the same. Like, you'll get a reaction, they'll be into it, but it's a different level when it's been through years and years and years of consistency. And like, I think Randy Orton is probably the best example of that.
AgoraCleveland.com. Sami Zayn and Friends do Cleveland Friday, August 2nd. In terms of that, putting that time in, we've talked a lot on this show about the moment when, not if, but when you become world champion is going to be one of those memorable moments. What will that moment mean to you when you finally become world champ?
I really don't know. You kind of don't know till you're in it.
Sure.
But a lot of people have done a lot of incredible things, and when you actually do them, it's not always what you think it's going to be. Including like main eventing WrestleMania or winning or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
Sometimes WrestleMania is just such a stressful time. It's such a stressful day that by the time you go out and do it, there's like nothing left in the emotional reserve. And that's something like a lot of wrestlers or a lot of performers won't tell you, because we're supposed to sell it like it's the most glorious moment in the world. And it really is, especially when you're able to step back from it. But sometimes in the moment, a lot of things don't feel quite how you think they're going to feel. But there's also the total opposite to that rule, which is things you think they're going to be good and they exceed your expectations. Like the stuff when I was doing that, the story with Roman and the Bloodline, all that stuff, the stuff in Montreal, we had a feeling they would be incredible, but it exceeded all expectations.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know. I stopped even trying to I don't even think in those terms anymore of like, what is it going to feel like? I don't know. I'll know when I'm there. And hopefully I get there. But if and when I do, I hope I'm just present enough in the moment to appreciate it. And I hope it's a special moment for the audience more than anything.
We talk a lot in terms of wrestling fans about Fight Forever, and I feel like you and KO are in that boat. Do you know how many times you guys have wrestled? And even if you don't, is there a match that sticks out as like, all right, that's one that I know we both believe really worked?
There's a bunch. I can't pick one as a favorite, but there's a lot that I've loved. I mean, there's just no shortage. And all of them are kind of for different reasons as well. I think the one we did in 2016, maybe it was Battleground. It was like the end of our rivalry in 2016. That's one of, I think, both of our favorites. We did a ladder match back in Pro Wrestling Guerrilla on the Independence. It's one of my favorites. There's one that we did in Ring of Honor WrestleMania weekend. Actually, it's what put me on WWE's radar. There was a scout there called Canyon Seaman. It was his first weekend on the job, and he saw me in that match. And that's kind of the match that put me on the radar and got me hired in a weird way. It was in 2011 in Florida, WrestleMania weekend. It was a last man standing match. There's just so many. I don't even know where to begin. Our first one in the States, a 4-way, in 2004, 20 years ago. Crazy. There's so many special ones. I don't know. They're all special for different reasons.
Last couple of things there. Saw you recently on Twitter on the WWE Vault. You shouted out an El Generico match. Let's do some fantasy booking. If we ever had Sami Zayn versus retired independent wrestler El Generico, how would that match go?
I don't know.
You guys similar styles, like you said on Twitter.
Yeah. It would probably be a pretty competitive fight. Both guys are kind of known for their heart and like sticking it out. So I don't know. I feel like if I saw, I feel like that one would go like 45 minutes, and just both guys just blown to high hell and struggling to get up, but kind of still fighting through it. I feel like it'd be that kind of match.
All right. Well, we wish him best of luck, of course, with that Mexican orphanage. Before we let you go, agoracleveland.com, Sami Zayn and Friends do Cleveland, Friday, August 2nd. Who's the superstar in your locker room right now that you think could kill it the most at stand-up? You said it's difficult to do that, but who is that superstar, male or female? You're like, all right, there's something there that could work.
It's a great question. I never really thought of that. I really don't know. I need to think about that for more than a minute.
Sure.
But look, there's a lot of really funny guys, and look, the thing about the show is it's not a stand-up show; it's a comedy show, right? So there are a lot of guys with great comedic instincts or great comedic timing that I think would be great, and I'd love to have them all on the show. And anyone that's on the show, because there are going to be a lot of WWE superstars as surprise guests and things like that. I also try to put it in a way so that the fans are seeing them kind of in a light that they don't normally get to see them in on television. You know what I mean? Just get them a little bit out of that zone that you're used to seeing them in. That's part of the comedy, to me anyways. Or that's part of, like, even if you're not slapping your knee going, ha, 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 it's still fun to see somebody that you've known in one way for years and years and years and just see them in a different light. It's like I don't know. I think that's part of the beauty of the show.
Make sure you check it out. Friday, August 2nd, late night show after SmackDown, agoracleveland.com, before SummerSlam the next day at Cleveland Brown Stadium. He's the Intercontinental Champion. It's Sami Zayn, and Sami Zayn and Friends are going to do it. Cleveland. Sami, thanks for the time and best of luck with everything moving forward.